So let's talk about the scenario where you're overqualified going into a job interview. And this is not all that uncommon from experience. And also my experience has shown it's perfectly fine to get a job offer even in this scenario. But in today's video, I'll talk about 4 elements, 4 things you would want to keep in mind in order to hopefully further improve your chances to get a job offer. The first one would be you should be aware that the employer will go at great lengths to test you for culture fit. So high-performing companies, and especially rich companies who can afford these things, they will always prefer to pick the candidate who's the better cultural fit, simply because the technical fit is mostly teachable nowadays. So they will prefer to ramp up someone technically rather than to change someone behaviorally, which is extremely complicated, by the way. So be prepared to be screened for cultural fit at all times. Second area I want to touch upon here is stress. So if you're overqualified but you want to switch jobs, it may happen that you are someone a bit suspicious to them, that you might also be a toxic employee. It might sound weird for you, but in my experience, it certainly happened more often than with other candidates, that overqualified candidates were also a bit overly negative and overly pessimistic. So I won't insist, how to fix this behavior of stress or a toxic employee, but you should know that this is a well-known thing, and especially someone that the HR departments have to be particularly careful with. Number 3, expectations. So if you are overqualified, in the same way that you are really good at your functional and your technical stuff, they will expect you to perform at least as good on the behavioral stuff. So I know it sounds unfair because, in a way you're overqualified that department, but I believe this trade-off actually makes sense because, if you're gifted to be that good in a technical department, that you should be able to ramp up your performance at least as to match that, behaviorally speaking. Now, what can you do for this? You should prepare, basically to put together a great show. How do you do this? Well, why do you want to work for this company? So prepare an extraordinarily strong example, extraordinarily strong case on why would you be interested in working for the specific company? How can you make a difference there? And of course, don't sound scripted about it. Also prepare, very convincing answers, or, okay, we see you are incredibly good at what you're doing, but why do you want to switch roles, right? So just a quick pro tip here, if as probably more than half of candidates you want to switch jobs because you don't like your manager, please do take the time to properly rephrase this, not to sound like you're putting the blame on anyone, and ideally don't even reference any managers, or you could just say that you've reached the maximum in your current role and you're looking to explore new possibilities, for example. But so what I'm trying to say here is that if you don't have to spend time preparing on the technical side, you will have plenty of time preparing on the behavioral side, and you do have a couple of things you can definitely ramp up, behaviorally speaking. So you can ramp up your behavioral performance if you take the right approach. I have plenty of videos on this channel to guide you how do you go about answering these behavioral questions, and where do you start, and how you should proceed with these things. And last but not least, I found that in the case of overqualified candidates, and especially the candidates that prepare for job interviews, they must pay particular attention with confidence, because I once coached someone who applied for the second time, actually, for a program manager role. I think it was in the Seattle area. And the first time they applied, they got rejected because they simply got stuck during the job interview. So they got asked some questions, some behavioral questions to which they didn't have the best possible answer. And because they lost confidence in themselves, they went on a downwards trend. And, however, the employer noticed, there is serious potential with that candidate in spite of the fact they're overqualified and in spite of the fact they blocked essentially in a job interview. And they did call her in after 2 or 3 months. So, then she successfully got a job. But the main takeaway here is that you should work on your confidence levels going into these interviews. And think of it like this: if you did pass those screening rounds, those telephone screening rounds, it means they are genuinely interested in you. Otherwise, why would they bother to invest their resources as well in an on-site interview? And also from experience, these employers are quite smart. I mean, they do understand the opportunity that an overqualified candidate could bring to their bottom lines. So this is also something you want to consider, but again, on this confidence level primarily. So these would be the 4 elements that I believe would make the most sense for you to consider as in this rather particular scenario of being overqualified for a job interview.